家好. I welcome you to Jade Palace Yamingo. My name is Yaya. There is a very good ancient saying that has been proven true time and time again. Is it food for thought or an ominous warning? So let's get started. A disclaimer that this video may touch on politics and political stances. Please be civil and accept that my views are my own. Idioms, 成语, are sayings that were passed down by our ancestors in order to bestow wisdom. The idiom that I want to talk about today is 富不过三代, which means that wealth cannot survive 3 generations. There are equivalent sayings in other cultures. In the United States, our version is from shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. In Japan, rice paddies to rice paddies in 3 generations. And in Scotland, the father buys, the son builds, the grandchild begs. What does this idiom mean? Basically, that the family's wealth cannot last more than 3 generations. Why is this? Well, usually the first generation is the one that worked hard and sacrificed for the wealth. The second generation may see the value of hard work, but by the 3rd generation, they've completely forgotten it. Yes, this may not always be true, but more often than not, it can be. So the first generations are the ones that are fighting tooth and nail. They've experienced hardships and know what it takes not to repeat mistakes. They are the ones that sacrifice in order to provide a better life for their children. Second generation will see the sufferings that their parents have gone through. They will directly see the impact of the hardships. They understand that hard work is what will help them sustain, but they don't have to experience the sacrifice that their parents had to. Finally, the 3rd generation was born into comfort. They've never had to experience any of the hardships and do not understand the sacrifice that their predecessors had to give in order for them to live the life they do. They do not understand that their luxuries came at a price. Usually, this generation will take it for granted and waste it away. Let's look at some of the evidence of the past that supports this claim. There is a reason that this idiom is still commonly passed down, because there's much truth to it. Don't believe me? Let's look at all of the previous dynasties in Chinese history. Almost all the dynasties don't last beyond 200 or 300 years. And that's not counting the periods of time that the country was at war with itself. The Tang Dynasty was between 618 to 907 CE, 289 years. The Ming Dynasty was 1368 to 1644, 276 years. And the Qing Dynasty was between 1644 to 1911, 267 years. The Zhou Dynasty technically lasted around 800 years, but within that time, it included the Western Zhou Dynasty and the Eastern Zhou Dynasty. The Western Zhou Dynasty lasted around 200 years, while the Eastern Zhou Dynasty lasted around 500, but that was also split into the Spring-Autumn period and the Warring States period. The Han Dynasty and the Song Dynasty are also special cases. Both of these dynasties were split into 2. The Han Dynasty also had a Western and Eastern Han Dynasty, while the Song Dynasty had a Northern and Southern Song Dynasty. The Western Han lasted 236 years, between 206 BCE to 25 CE, before a battle of power that led to protest and rebellion, ending the Western Han Dynasty. The re-establishment of power led to the formation of the Eastern Han Dynasty, which only lasted 195 years, from 25 to 220 CE. Same with the Song Dynasty. It was broken into Northern and the Southern Song Dynasty, and either didn't last more than 300 years. One of the best examples of 富不过三代 that I can think of is during the Qing Dynasty. more specifically the reign of Emperor Kangxi, Yongzheng, and Qianlong. Exactly like the idiom, Kangxi was the grandfather, Yongzheng the father, and Qianlong the grandson. The Qing Dynasty under Emperor Kangxi was considered the golden period of that dynasty. Foreign relations were welcomed, especially since Kangxi was so open to Western technology. The economy thrived. Emperor Yongzheng was a pretty decent ruler, no matter what the propaganda said. He was dedicated to his work and worked very hard. It was a pity that he couldn't have done more before his early passing. Both him and Emperor Kangxi left a good economy and savings for the next emperor. Don't get me wrong, Emperor Qianlong's reign was pretty good. During the beginning, he was a decent ruler, but he did not embrace Western technology as much as his grandfather did. He even refused to wear glasses because he thought that it caused inflammation, because glass is made with fire. Unfortunately, in his elderly age, he became frivolous and wasted all of the money in the savings. He indulged in luxuries and women, leaving behind a situation that neither his son nor descendants could recover from. We can see this dynamic in other dynasties as well, like the Tang Dynasty. You can say that the Tang Dynasty peaked during the reign of Wu Zetian, but her grandson, Tang Huang, messed it all up. Much like Qianlong, his reign wasn't bad during the beginning, but became frivolous in his old age. He basically stole his son's wife, Yang Guifei, and became so infatuated with her that he ignored his responsibilities as the emperor. After the Anlu Shan rebellion, he managed to save himself at the sacrifice of Yang Guifei. But the dynasty just began to decline until its inevitable end in 907 CE. And the Han Dynasty. During the reign of Emperor Han Wudi, who ruled between 141 to 87 BCE, the Han Dynasty reached its most powerful and prosperous period. There was a lot of interesting drama between the period of Han Wudi and Liu Xun, but one of the main reasons that Liu Xun did so well during his reign was because he basically grew up on the streets. He knew exactly the hardships that normal citizens went through and how to address it. However, true to the saying, his son, Liu Shi, who was born into luxury, could not fill his predecessor's shoes. Due to his constant indecisiveness, the empire began to deteriorate. He could not stop fighting between officials of his administration, and he also put too much trust into corrupt officials. His actions led to the end of the Western Han Dynasty. Just by looking at ancient Chinese history, it provides pretty good evidence that there's obvious truth behind the idiom. The time that it takes a grandparent to build to decline after the grandchildren is an average of 200 years, which matches the span of time that it takes a dynasty to rise and fall. Even my own family may be a good representation of this idiom. My grandparents were refugees. They knew starvation, fear, homelessness. They witnessed war. In order to make sure that their descendants didn't suffer as they had, they worked so hard to move to the US for better opportunities. My parents luckily have never seen war like their parents have. They've only heard about it. But they did see how hard their parents worked, so they tried their best for me. On the other hand, I grew up privileged. I never had to suffer due to hunger or conflict. Hopefully, I'm not so spoiled that I'm frivolous, but I definitely do notice that I spend money much more easily than my grandparents did. they didn't even have the opportunity to. Okay, how does this apply to present day? History is history and has passed for a reason. We should have learned from history. So how does that affect us today? Not to be that person, but the United States seems to be heading down this very path. If you look at history and economy, the United States has already reached its peak. We have reached a point that we have grown so used to luxuries that our ancestors died to provide for us, to the point that we have taken it for granted. We fight for the sake of fighting, and the fact that we continue to boast that US is the best country in the world, while demonizing other countries for having their own policies. The same policies that we have here, just under a different name, is disappointing. We even continue to deny the fact that other countries can be politically, technologically, and ethically more advanced than we are. I know that this may just be my own opinion, but if we don't acknowledge the wisdom of our ancestors, we may just destroy the very thing that they sacrificed so much to build. I have a Teespring if you'd like to support the channel. I have a lot of super cute designs that I'm really proud of, so please check it out if you can. Link is in the description below. So what do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree? Leave a comment down below because I would like to know. Also, please leave a comment if you can. It really does help out small channels like mine. You can also let me know what topics you would like to see me covered in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to Jade Palace Yamingong. I would very much appreciate it. And until next time, 再见了